Okay, so I figured it out. I figured out the perfect property strategy. And it's probably not what you think. But if you're someone that's at the earlier stages of your property investment journey, you're maybe just learning or have been learning for some time, there's probably an element of confusion where you don't know what is the best strategy that I follow. You've been thrown the idea of rent to rent with you, serviced accommodation, you should do HMOs or you should do social housing, supported living, whatever it is. And everyone's making probably a very compelling case as why you should pick that strategy. But I'm here to completely clear the air for you. Very brief introduction. My name is Tyler Newman. I have a property investment development company. We're actively delivering 13, 14 million pounds worth of projects right now. I've also got a high-end estate agency business where we sell £1 million plus property all across the UK. And I've made every single mistake you could probably think of under the sun over the last 10 or so years that I've been involved and immersed into the world of property. And what I want to share with you is the perfect property strategy for living the good life. So I'm very fortunate. I live a great lifestyle. I live in a beautiful home, drive nice cars, do nice things. And as well as that, I've got investments that are building me wealth in the background. And so I want to start off by kind of explaining the difference between income and wealth. Income is how much you make. Wealth is how much you have. And you need income, of course, to live and to be able to do nice things because everyone's got different values. I get that. People want to spend money on different things. But for the most part, I understand people want to have some kind of financial independence, some kind of financial abundance. I really don't like the word, but financial freedom. And that is to be able to go and buy and do the things that they want to do and essentially live life on their own terms. And you need income for that because if you want to drive a nice car, that requires an income to be able to spend money on the payments of that car or insuring that car, putting fuel in that car, etc. If you want to spend money on living in a nice house, whether you want to rent, whether you want to buy, you need an income, whether to cover the mortgage, whether to cover the rent, or if you want to travel. If travel is a big thing for you, like it is for me, you need an income to be able to do that. So income is how much you make. Consider it cash flow. You then have wealth. Wealth is how much you own, and wealth is ultimately where you win long term. If you look at the Forbes list or if you look at the Sunday Times rich list and you see these huge numbers next to the name where they're worth X amount of billions, X amount of millions, that number is based on really the value of the equity of the companies and assets that they own. And that's wealth. The number you see next to Jeff Bezos' name is not really based on the dividends and the salary he pays himself. It's based on the value of the assets that he's acquired that's gone up in value, i.e. his 15, 16% of Amazon, or I think that's maybe diluted a little bit in recent years. And the point being is you need a cash flow business to tick the income box and you need a wealth building vehicle to tick the wealth box. And the mistake I see a lot of people make is they focus on just one of the two. They're like, oh, I want to save up and save up and save up with maybe an income that isn't that meaningful yet to go buy an investment property, which might pay them a little bit of income every single month, and then save up again for another 1, 2, 3, 5 years, maybe longer to buy the second one. But that's just a very slow way to do things. The actual first thing you want to do is focus on increasing your income. Step number 1 is focus on increasing your income. Start a cash flow business. And this doesn't necessarily have to be property. The best cash flow businesses are where you're selling a product or a service to a marketplace. And so that could be a service on like an agency model where you're selling content creation to companies that need content and they're paying you a £1,000, £2,000, £3,000 retainer every single month. Or it could be where you're working as a bespoke property source, sourcing properties on behalf of cash-rich, time-poor investors, and they're happy to pay you a £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 sourcing fee for going and finding an investment property that meets their criteria on behalf. That's a service that you are selling. It could be what I actually believe to be one of the best ways to produce an income. In fact, I believe it is the best way to produce an income in property in 2025 and probably for the foreseeable future is by becoming a self-employed real estate broker, either in the UK or in Dubai. And that is a service that you provide. We're not being paid for your time. You're being paid for your results. You're being paid for the value that you can provide. And it's a vehicle where not easily, but if you do it for long enough and you put the hours in, it is absolutely possible to be earning 10, 15, 20, 25, 30,000 pounds per month. I've got very, very close friends that are in their early 20s, like 21, 22, 23 years old, earning 500,000 pounds per year take home income working as a self-employed, a commission-only real estate broker. And so you need a cash flow business, and that could be something like rent to rent. It could be something like serviced accommodation, stuff where you don't necessarily own assets, but you're providing a service. Rent to rent, you're providing a service to a landlord. You're managing it on their behalf, and you're just arbitraging the difference between the rent that you pay them and then the income that you're sweating from the asset through the way that you're increasing the income it produces. So once you've solved for that problem, you've got to a meaningful income. Either you've replaced your income and you now got a little bit more freedom because you now have a business, or you've got to a much more meaningful income, which is paying you to 10, 20,000 pounds per month, which is really the sweet spot. I actually believe you have the most peace in your life at 10 to 20,000 per month, because beyond that, really to scale to that income to the next level, you start taking on team, and there's a level of complexity that comes with it and a level of headaches. And so for some people, that's just a price they're not prepared to pay, which is fine because there is no right answer to how much money should you make. I just wanted to interrupt this video to invite you to my next 2-day mastermind I'm hosting here at my home in London. These are 2 very intense, very transformational days where you're learning not just from me, but 5 and 6 other property entrepreneurs that are operating at the 7 and 8 figure level with their property businesses. I can fit 8 people around my dining room table, so it's very intimate, it's very intense. I take everyone for a beautiful dinner on the first night. It's a Friday and Saturday, and over the course of the 2 days, it's a full deep dive into how to really play a bigger game with your property business, how to raise capital from private investors, how to find these investors, how to structure the financing, how to build your brand and build an audience of people that know, like, and trust you, that presents so much more opportunity of being able to find investors and have more deals come your way, how to actually find high quality deals, how to analyze these deals, and how to really scale. We're going to take your psychology to the next level, and ultimately you're going to have a level of clarity and knowledge and skill sets and network coming away from this event, which are going to allow you to take a quantum leap forward in your property business. A lot of people say they were a different person leaving the event that when they arrived. And so if you want to find out more, the first link in the description of this video will be a link to me explaining the event in a bit more detail. And if it's something you'd like to explore, you can fill out a form and book in a call with myself where we can make a decision together if it's something you'd like to be a part of. Back to the video. But then the second thing you want to focus on is, how am I building wealth? Because what you don't want to do is make a good income and be spending a large portion of that income, and then 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, you don't have too much to show for it. You need assets, you need wealth, because eventually you want to get to a point which might be 10, 15, 20 years away, where the income that's produced from your assets, the passive income or the residual value from the increase in value of your assets, actually far outweighs the active income from your cash flow business. And so, of course, I actually believe the best investment vehicle for the masses is property, because there's low barriers to entry, you don't need a license, there's a huge amount of education available for it, and you want to go out and you can buy property. Now, I've got many other videos explaining kind of best practices for this, but the best property investment strategy is just any strategy where you own the asset. Of course, you want to understand risk, you want to understand the risks associated with supported housing, with HMO, with doing development projects, etc. But wealth comes from owning assets long term, where you're building a portfolio of stuff that is going to go up in value every single year, or on average every single year. Rents are going to increase on average every single year. The debt you have against the properties, i.e. the mortgages, as inflation happens and a pound becomes worth less, the value of that debt decreases, and all of these compound effects kick in. You can refinance the assets every 3 to 5 years to reinvest. And that's why you see, if you look at the wealth of anyone on the Forbes list and the most successful people in the world, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, everyone, and even people that you know that are just around you personally, your personal network, that are wealthy, you'll see their wealth over time is exponential. It's not linear, it's exponential. It curves up because of these compound effects that kick in. The second thing you want to look at when you're looking at the Forbes list and the Sunday Times Rich list is not their net worth figure, but it's their age. And what you see is actually they are much older. And that for me is an indicator that wealth is built over the long term. And so with property, you always want to be thinking in terms of years and decades rather than weeks and months from a wealth creation perspective. I believe you can get your income with the right strategy, the right guidance, with the right mentor. You can get to £10,000 per month in income from scratch in under 12 months if you're really bullish on it. But to build an abundance of wealth where your net worth is touching into the seven figures and you're approaching millionaire, multimillionaire status, that for some people might take 10 years, which is fine if that is your expectation. So build your income with cash flow businesses, sell a product or service, and then build your wealth through investing in property. And the best way to invest in property is to get really good at finding deals, understand the finance side of property where you can find investors, raise capital from investors where they can come and help you fund projects with you, because just relying on your own capital is massively going to slow you down because your own capital is a finite resource. Then understand how to build the right team, a professional team, the right systems to deliver and manage these projects with you. So that, in my opinion, is the perfect property strategy. Don't overthink it. Get around people that have the success you want, pay whatever price you need to pay to get in proximity with them, and think in terms of years and decades, not weeks and months. See you guys on the next video.